A goofy person. I think a lot of people don't really know her outside of basketball. Outside of basketball, she's funny. Like, she has so much personality. I think that's what people need to know about her. Like, her personality goes a long way, and she's a great person. And I think that goes, like, she helps me through every little thing. Like, I could ask a question.
Some stories in sports don't start with glory. They begin in the harshest spotlight imaginable, filled with public humiliation and relentless online ridicule, a moment so overwhelming that it makes someone question everything they've spent their entire life working toward. But then there are rare stories that take that exact same breaking point, turn it upside down, and transform it into something unexpectedly powerful and inspiring. This is one of those stories because Raven Johnson has lived through both sides of that reality, and the most surprising part is that the person connected to the rise is the very same one who, without ever intending to, was tied to the fall, Caitlin Clark.
Bro, the Fever really selected Raven Johnson as the number 10 pick to come play with Clark. Do y'all remember this? Clark waving her off in college, and then she recently was talking in an interview about it again, about how she got waved off, and now they gonna be playing together.
To fully grasp where this story is headed, you first need to see where it began. It's 2023 and the stage is the NCAA Women's Basketball Final Four, an intense showdown between Iowa and South Carolina. At that point, Caitlin Clark had already become the most talked about name in college basketball, leading the nation in scoring, dominating highlight reels, and capturing everyone's attention. Then came a brief moment that cameras caught and the internet quickly turned into something much bigger than it was. Clark, simply running her offense, made a calculated decision when Raven Johnson stood open at the three-point line. She chose not to guard her, reading that Johnson wasn't a perimeter threat. It was a straightforward basketball decision, nothing more, but online, it was taken far beyond the game itself. Johnson was overwhelmed almost instantly. What followed that moment was a wave of bullying, endless comments, mockery, and a relentless online pile-on from people who chose to tear down a young woman who had done nothing wrong. At just 20 years old, while already carrying the weight that comes with being a young black woman in the public eye, Johnson later revealed how deeply that period affected her. It became so dark that she seriously considered walking away from basketball entirely, not just taking time off, but leaving behind the game she had devoted her entire life to, all because of the cruelty of strangers reacting to a moment that lasted less than 5 seconds. That is the reality of what happened, and it is something that needs to be fully understood before the story moves forward.
The reason I hate the internet now, because of that situation, like I got bashed, I got bullied, I got called all these things that I wasn't, aka like a monkey or this, I don't know, like it was just things like that. And I just think I wanted to quit basketball at that time. And I wanted to just go in this little bubble of isolation and just be by myself. And I think, you know, I leaned on God. I had some wonderful teammates, wonderful people in my life, like I said, and they helped me find that light, and it put so much fuel to the fire to me to go back the next year, and we went undefeated and met that team again, and we beat them. So I think it was all God.
But here now comes the part of the story that people are only just beginning to truly understand. Raven Johnson didn't walk away, she stayed. She returned to South Carolina to coach Dawn Staley and back onto the court, making a conscious choice to turn that painful moment into motivation instead of letting it push her out. In 2024, South Carolina captured the national championship, defeating Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes on the way there, and Johnson played a crucial role throughout that run. When she finally reached the top on the biggest stage in college basketball, it wasn't just a victory, it was a full-circle comeback from the lowest point of her career. That's what resilience looks like, and in its truest form, it's something built over years, something real that can never be imitated.
Fever beat New York 109-91. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is people putting respect on Raven Johnson's name. First game, WNBA debut, 6 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 blocks, no turnovers, you guys, none. I've been talking about Raven Johnson being underrated for far too long. Cut to the clip. Those of us that have been following the Gamecocks for longer than a couple of years know Raven Johnson is literally her. It is unfortunate that sometimes she does not get the respect that she deserves. I don't know what you guys thought was about to happen, but this is Raven Johnson, 18 minutes off the bench. First preseason WNBA game. She just got done playing college basketball, you guys. It's only April.
She entered the professional stage as a two-time national champion, with analysts already labeling her as one of the most NBA-ready players in the entire 2026 draft class. Then on April 14, 2026, the Indiana Fever selected Raven Johnson with the 10th overall pick in the draft, marking a moment that carried far more weight than a typical selection. The full significance quickly became clear when it was understood that she was joining Caitlin Clark's team, the same player she had once been connected to during a defining moment on the biggest stage of college basketball. Now they were on the same roster, wearing the same jersey, sharing the same locker room, a reality that felt almost scripted in its coincidence. As the announcement echoed and her name was called, attention immediately shifted beyond the draft itself to the deeper emotional context surrounding it. The question that naturally followed was no longer about potential or rankings, but about experience, what it truly feels like for Raven Johnson to walk into the same facility every day as Caitlin Clark, to share a practice court, a team huddle, and a game plan with someone who, even unintentionally, was part of one of the most difficult moments of her journey. Johnson answered the question directly without avoiding it or simplifying what it meant. She explained that she chose to leave the past behind and made it clear that the moment she put on an Indiana Fever jersey, her focus shifted entirely to winning a championship, adding that Caitlin Clark had shared the exact same mindset from the very first day of training camp. She described Clark as a genuinely great person who consistently supported her in small but meaningful ways, always willing to answer any questions she had, and said that being around someone like that meant a great deal to her. She also spoke about Clark's lighter side, mentioning her sense of humor and how it helped them connect naturally, with both of them sharing laughs and building an easy rhythm together that made her feel comfortable and happy to be part of the environment. Beyond that initial press conference, Johnson has continued to offer a more open and detailed perspective on what Clark is like as a teammate on a daily basis, describing her not just as a superstar or a major name in the sport, but as someone who is fully present, engaged, and genuinely invested in the people around her. Johnson revealed that Caitlin Clark supported her through the most difficult parts of adjusting to the professional level, guiding her through tactical changes, differences in pace, and the mental adjustments every rookie faces when transitioning from college to the WNBA. She also shared that she asked Clark an overwhelming number of questions during training, and Clark took the time to answer each one without hesitation. That detail stands out because Clark, as the franchise player and the face of the Fever, with her name driving jersey sales and her influence extending across the highest levels of basketball, could easily prioritize her own space and responsibilities. Instead, she chose to sit with a rookie who once stood on the opposite side of a rivalry game and patiently walk her through what it takes to survive and succeed in a league that has no patience for those who are unprepared, showing a level of leadership that goes beyond status or reputation. Johnson also shared a different side of Clark that many people who only follow highlights and statistics never get to see, describing her as warm, goofy, and unexpectedly funny, with a personality that naturally fills a room in ways that have nothing to do with basketball. She emphasized that most of the world doesn't truly know that version of her, the one cracking jokes in the locker room, making playful faces in team photos, and bringing energy to the group just to make her teammates laugh. The Indiana Fever's own social media offered a clear glimpse of that reality when they posted a series of training camp photos showing Caitlin Clark and Raven Johnson interacting in naturally playful moments. In one image, Clark appeared to be jokingly running away as Johnson chased her, while another showed Johnson hugging Clark as Clark responded with an exaggerated, goofy expression. Nothing about it felt staged or manufactured for publicity. It looked like two people who had found a way to move past a complicated history and build something genuinely positive in its place. That kind of chemistry cannot be forced. It either exists or it doesn't, and these moments made it clear that it does. Beyond the friendship and lighthearted interactions, there is also a serious competitive reality underneath it all. The presence of Clark as an active mentor and teammate, and her direct involvement in Johnson's early development, carries a level of practical impact that goes far beyond locker room dynamics or personality fit. Johnson entered the league at a time when the Indiana Fever are no longer just a rebuilding team, but a franchise positioned within a real championship window, with a roster constructed to compete at the highest level. In that environment, the margin for error is extremely small, and every player's development becomes part of a larger expectation to perform immediately and consistently. The standard Caitlin Clark sets inside the building, her habits, her preparation, and her refusal to accept anything less than the best version of every practice session, has become the daily environment Raven Johnson now operates in. In that space, opinions outside the locker room often try to frame narratives around rivalry, fandom, and division, but within the team the focus is different, centered on development, chemistry, and performance. That contrast becomes even more evident when looking at how the connection between Clark and Johnson is perceived publicly, where reactions range from praise to criticism depending on allegiances, while the reality on the floor continues to show a growing sense of comfort and coordination between teammates, including Johnson's early interactions with other players like Sophie Cunningham. From a basketball standpoint, Johnson has already begun showing her ability to contribute at the professional level. In her WNBA preseason debut against the New York Liberty, she played 17 minutes and recorded 8 assists, along with 3 made shots and 2 blocks, a strong introduction to the pace and physicality of the league against one of its top teams. She later stepped into a supporting role behind Clark in a game against the Dallas Wings, where Clark scored 21 points in 16 minutes before Johnson took on primary ball handling responsibilities, further highlighting the trust being placed in her early development and her growing role within the Fever's system. Johnson finished that stretch by handling duties for the remainder of the contest, responding with 3 points and 5 assists in 21 minutes of play. She didn't shrink under pressure or fade when the moment grew bigger. Instead, she played with the composure of someone shaped by her environment, guided by the coaching staff, and supported by a teammate who has been invested in her development since the first day of camp. When reflecting on the transition from rivalry to partnership, she explained that she had fully put the past behind her and, the moment she put on an Indiana Fever jersey, her mindset shifted entirely toward winning a championship together. She emphasized that Clark shares the same focus, consistently talking about winning, building professional habits, and understanding how small the margin for error becomes in high-level games where everything matters. Johnson added that her own mindset is centered on doing whatever it takes to win a title, making it clear that the ultimate goal is shared across the team and aligned with the expectations of the environment they are now part of. There is a version of this story where everything between Caitlin Clark and Raven Johnson becomes the entire narrative, where every practice, every game, and every sideline interaction is constantly filtered through that 2023 Final Four moment and reduced into a rivalry that is easy for media to package and for fans to debate online. That version is simple to tell, but it doesn't reflect the full truth. The real story is more layered, more complex, and far more human. It is about 2 elite athletes who were placed on opposite sides of a difficult and highly visible moment, who could have easily carried that tension forward indefinitely under public pressure, but instead chose to see each other as people first and prioritize what they are building together over what once separated them. Johnson herself made it clear that she has left the past behind, while Clark, who has consistently emphasized that winning and competing at the highest level are her only real focus, opened her circle to a rookie teammate, patiently helping her adjust, answering her questions, guiding her through the transition, and making her feel included through both her seriousness and her humor. Through her actions, Clark has shown a daily commitment to the idea that this team is about mutual support, development, and nobody being left to figure things out alone. In that context, the early chemistry and energy around the Fever roster has become increasingly noticeable, with strong draft decisions and seamless integration beginning to shift narratives as preseason and training camp moments continue to circulate. It's almost ironic how much of what surrounds this story exists outside the actual locker room. As Aaliyah Boston pointed out on her podcast, a large portion of the narratives, rivalries, and beef that dominate social media are not coming from the players themselves, but from fans and online discussions that build their own version of reality. From the inside, the dynamic is often far more grounded. Players are focused on practice, adjustments, and survival in a league where every possession matters. And more often than not, what gets framed as tension from the outside is simply normal competition viewed through an exaggerated lens. Within that reality, Raven Johnson's journey carries a deeper weight than anything being debated online. She experienced the full emotional spectrum of modern sports culture: public scrutiny, online criticism, and a period so overwhelming that she genuinely considered stepping away from basketball entirely. That kind of moment has ended many careers before they even truly began. But instead of becoming the end of her story, it became a turning point. She stayed, she rebuilt, and she worked her way into a position where she is now contributing at the highest level of the game. What makes her situation even more compelling is not just that she made it to the WNBA, but how she has arrived there, alongside Caitlin Clark, the same player once tied to that difficult moment in her past. Now they share the same jersey, the same system, and the same goal. What once existed as a viral snapshot in college basketball history has been replaced by daily reps, shared film sessions, and real on-court chemistry being built in real time. At its core, this story is no longer about a single game or a single moment. It is about what happens when an athlete refuses to be defined by the worst chapter of their public narrative. It is about growth under pressure, resilience under scrutiny, and the ability to keep moving forward even when the world tries to freeze you in one moment forever. Raven Johnson's path to the WNBA was already difficult, but what she is building now is something even more meaningful: stability, confidence, and impact at the professional level. And woven through all of it is Caitlin Clark's presence, not as a headline generator or a symbol of controversy, but as a teammate operating in real time. A player who not only demands excellence through her own standard, but reinforces it in the people around her through guidance, repetition, and shared accountability. Together, they are not just rewriting an old narrative, they are replacing it with something quieter, more consistent, and ultimately more important: a team learning how to win together.